No one else is going to join. Jinju, is this your first time joining the meeting? Or am I pronouncing that right, first of all?
Hi, yeah, this is Gino, actually, and yes, this is my first meeting.
Nice to meet you. Do you want to introduce yourself, talk about the stuff you're interested in? This is the security meeting. So off week, every other week, we have a specific meeting for registry and security. And then every other Wednesday, it's a general meeting where we talk about spec and tooling and general purpose discussions about CNAB.
Right, awesome. One second, let me turn on my video so you guys can see me. There we go. Hey guys, so my name is Gino. I've just joined a startup called Structure, and we are in the space of security, app delivery, all those things. To be completely transparent, I'm fairly new to the cloud and cloud native ecosystem. So my goal is to get up to speed as quickly as possible. And joining some working groups and hearing discussions and all those things have been really helpful. So that's why I'm here.
That's excellent. We'd be happy to help if you have any sort of question. Do you think it would help if we very briefly talk about how CNAB security is supposed to work?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Sure. Tushang, do you want to take that or do you want me to take it? I'm happy to do whatever you want.
Maybe if you could, so first of all, just to make sure we're all on the same page, we assume you're really familiar with CNAB, right?
I read the overview on like the GitHub repo, but don't have like a deep understanding of it.
Okay, maybe Radu can help explain that better, and then I can jump into the security part.
Sure. So for the purpose of this particular meeting, you can think about a CNAB, a cloud native application bundle, as a collection of artifacts and metadata, right? Specifically, it's a list of container images and metadata like parameters and credential sources. And essentially, it should encompass everything required in order to deploy a complete application made of multiple components.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to separate those images, you can separate them into some configuration images called the invocation images that encapsulate all the knowledge about how to deploy the application, tooling such as Helm, Kube Control, your favorite cloud's platform command line, and scripts, instructions, programs on how to actually deploy things, like deploy this Helm chart and then create a new account on Cloudflare and create this cache and things like that, things that you would normally have to execute when deploying your application. Mm-hmm. And then the actual artifacts that you want to deploy as part of your application, right? So ultimately a bundle, after building, you'll have a bundle file, which is a canonical JSON file that somehow you have to distribute and make sure that no one tampers with. And this is where the registry and security part come in. And because we have a list of container images or list of container artifacts, the primary goal for the CNAB registry spec was to reuse as much as possible from the OCI spec, from the distribution spec.
Right.
So specifically where we are today is that there are a bunch of artifact services that allow you to push CNAB bundles into container registries. So for example, the open source Docker distribution project lets you do that. Azure Container Registry lets you do that. The Harbor Container Registry lets you do that. Ideally, the goal in the end is to have most container registry supported, and that's why we're working. Probably should work more with the OCI spec to standardize this particular thing. So specifically, you have the ability to push a CNAB bundle into a container registry, right? And reference it just like you would a regular container image. And if you want, we can go into more details into how a bundle is represented in registries. I'm not sure if that's the level you want to dive into details right now.
I think this was a really good overview. I think for this initial meeting, maybe a couple of meetings, I'm just gonna take an observer role.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, this was very helpful. Thank you for that.
And then the second part of this discussion is, this was the registry part and how we distribute bundles. The second part is how do we make sure no one tampers with a bundle after we've pushed it to a registry. And again, because there's already an established way of doing that within container registry services, we wanted to reuse as much as possible from this as well, while still making sure that we try to improve overall user experience, security, and the overall aspect of security in container registry. So specifically, we are reusing the signing process for container images. We're using the same overall process, which is described by TUF, which is the update framework. And specifically, the implementation of TUF that we're using is called Notary, which is the same one as used by container registry. So when you do a Docker push and you attempt to sign your container image, TUF and Notary are used behind the scenes, and your signature is pushed to a Notary registry. And we're trying to reuse that behind the scenes with CNAB as well. And just on Monday, everyone voted for the CNAB security spec for a GA for it. So you've joined this meeting right after we've managed to standardize the process for 1.0 for a generally available security spec. And I'll let Tushank go on from here, because there's one more aspect to the registry spec, which is supply chain security.
Yeah, thanks, Radu. That was an excellent intro. Matt Butcher is here. Very nice. So, what do you call? One problem you need to worry about when you pull in things like Docker images or CNAB bundles is making sure that they were not tampered with, right? Especially because this is very sensitive apps you're trying to install in your infrastructure. You want guarantees. That's the same thing that especially if you're trying to pull in from something like a public source. Maybe for a private infrastructure, you wouldn't be so worried, but even there, you still want guarantees that you got the same thing out that you put in. So we use two technologies for this, fundamentally TUF and in Toto. And the version of TUF that we're using is called Notary. That's made for Docker Content Trust. And in fact, you can try playing with it today. If you Docker pull something, and you export a flag called Docker Content Trust, you can see it in work. It's actually quite interesting.
Docker content, what was that?
Docker Content Trust.
Oh, trust.
Yeah, there's a lot of documentation for this. You might want to take a look at that, and then take a look at the update framework website too, just to see how it roughly works. But the point is that it's what you want to do is secure the registry so that even if someone hacks with it, you know that someone tampered with the image without your permission because they don't have the right signing keys. That's the basic idea. But this doesn't solve the problem that this alone doesn't solve the problem that Radu is alluding at, which is, well, how do you know that the original developers were not compromised? Maybe you know that they signed and produced the right thing, but these days everyone builds stuff using CI/CD. How do you know your CI/CD was trustworthy, that it built the right Docker image? And for that, we use another technology called InToto that basically gives you the so-called software supply chain guarantees, that everything between developers and end users all the way, not just the last mile, was not tampered with. And the basic idea is to sign a chain of attestations and distribute that on top of TUF. You can think of TUF as the trust bootstrapping layer, and also freshness and consistency guarantees. But that's getting too deep into the weeds. But hopefully it gives you a rough idea.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Hey, I'm going to have to drop in a couple minutes. Sorry, I wanted to make sure to drop in to let you know that this morning, Chris Krohn and I voted, and the CNAB Security 1.0 spec passed the vote. So later on today, we will be cutting the official tag for that. And thank you so much for a ton of work on that proposal.
And thank you, Radu, also. Yeah.
You got a unanimous yes vote too. Every single maintainer and both executive directors voted yes on it. So well done. Very good.
We'll have to thank Ralph for that as well, for whipping votes.
But this is true.
Yeah, thanks. I don't think there's anything on the agenda, Matt, that you have to specifically stay for. So if you have to drop out, yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure to share that good news. I told Chris right after
Thank
we
you.
finished
Thank
voting
you.
that I would drop in here and let everybody know he's in another meeting today as well. But yeah, congratulations again. And thank you so much for, I know that was a ton of work. So Radu, later on today, you and I can cut the tag for that and do the actual mechanics of the release, and we will be done with yet another CNAB spec.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much.
On that, I'm going to drop back off, but do you have the mysterious and magical disappearing coffee mug today? That's the real
Oh, no. I was just thinking, it's behind me. I need to refill it. It has literally disappeared. So.
All right. Well, I will see you all next week on the big meeting. But thanks again.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Thank you. Radu, unfortunately, I have to go in 15 minutes because of another conflicting meeting. So does anything you want to talk about it?
Not necessarily. There's mostly the pull request on Signy. That's the biggest thing I wanted to discuss, and it's the only thing on the agenda that's that you have to discuss. Gino, I posted the pull request for the CNAB Security Spec 1.0 vote if you're interested in looking at the mechanics of it and the actual spec text. If you're
right.
And together with the security spec, we've also been working on a reference implementation for it, just because a spec alone, well, it's just a spec. So we also have to have an implementation for it. And this is an implementation that we've started, again, based on Notary. And this particular change that Prashant is proposing changes the way key management is done for various bundles and how they're signed. So the main point here was to discuss the changes that are proposed and how we want to go forward with this particular PR, since there are a bunch of more to-dos in there that we should tackle.
Right.
And again, I always forget to ask the meeting organizer to give us
recording
sharing screen back. Yeah.
Right.
I will definitely remember today. But yeah, specifically for this PR.
Yeah, let's see what's left. Let me click on that.
So checking for duplicate links, verify layout and pubkeys from targets, verify links from targets releases, and help with pushing metadata as artifacts.
Yeah, let me put it this way. So the first one, check for duplicate links. We don't need it right now. If for some reason the user accidentally overwrites, like that's not, we don't need it right now. It's not a hard blocker. Does this make sense? Let's say someone tries to, all the links should be in new directories. You see what I'm saying? The hash, the digest of the first link, right? Just to make sure that the links don't overwrite each other, that they're isolated for different bill. But we don't need to make that a Signy level thing. Like even in my personal signing workflows, that's not something I expect the tool to do. If I accidentally reuse an existing directory, like that's my problem, not the tool's problem. Although we could help the warrant, but this is not something we need right now.
So is the assumption that every link will be in its own directory?
Not that every link is in its own directory. Let me clarify. How are link files named? Is the step name dot key ID dot link. So for every bill of the bundle, you're gonna overwrite the previous links if you don't isolate them in, like, say, different UUID kind of directories. You can randomly generate a UUID and then use that to isolate the links, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't think this is something we need to worry about right now, and I don't think this is something that even Signy should even attempt to do. It's not clear to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can leave it as an open issue, that if anyone specific wants to tackle that, sure. But yeah, I agree. The next one is verify layout and pub keys from targets.
Yes, yes. This is where I need help with. So previously we had put it in this metadata structure. Ooh, crazy lightning here. Metadata structure that puts like the root layout, the layout key, and then the links all in one structure. All in one structure, and more importantly, all in one file. Now we have all of this information in different structures and different JSON files. Some are in targets, like the root layout and the root pubkeys, and some are in releases, like the links themselves. And
Right.
which root layout to use.
Oh,
so we just need to collate them and write them.
So
and,
if I recall correctly, in the first implementation where everything was bundled together in the same files in the same JSON structure, let me call it that way, and there was only a container verification. There was no OS verification.
yeah.
The step before actually executing the verification was take the files from the custom metadata in targets
Yep.
and copy everything in the in toto field as separate files in the container, and then apply in toto verify on that particular directory inside a container. Is this similar to what we're trying to achieve?
Yeah, now it's just slightly more complicated. Let me put it this way. I want to skip the part where we talk about how we walk the delegations, right? Let me skip that a bit and talk about how. So what we need to do is, okay, no, actually I should talk about it. What we need to do is see, hey, first I'm gonna ask, I haven't fully thought about this, but the way we should walk the delegation tree now is ask, is there a releases role? If there is a releases role, I'm gonna get the usual tough hashes from it, right? And if I'm asking for in toto verification, I should also inspect the custom metadata to see what is the root layout it expects and what are the links it expects me to get. And those
all
links
of that from targets releases, right?
Yeah, from target. Yeah, by releases I mean targets releases. Yes. Right? Does that make sense? And then we know that in releases also the links will be there. So that's not a problem. I can get it from the custom metadata in there. We're not downloading its files right yet. It's just basically literally data blobs. Great. And then we say, hey, okay, so now I've got all of this. And then now I'm going to go to targets and then ask targets only for the root layout that I was given. I was given a specific file name, right? So I know it'll be then targets. And then I also get the public keys for the targets, which will be pointed to by the root layout itself. And then there's so that's assuming that we're using MVP. If there is no targets releases role, then we have to assume that all of this is done in the targets role.
Right. So the initial implementation had everything in
the targets role. Yeah.
Now, because we split between the public layout and its public key, the root layout and its public key, and actual links, yeah, we have to get that type of information from different files. But that should be fine. It shouldn't be a particularly difficult process.
It's not difficult. It's just complicated. It's just a few steps.
Okay, so I see it's marked as a to-do in the PR, and I've already committed some changes to the PR as well, like fixing the tests and stuff like that. Yeah. Let me see if I can go through that list of things this week, and if I manage to get the verification done. Hopefully, I will. I will probably ping you at some point in the CNAB. In the CNCF Slack. By the way, most of the conversations here are done in the CNCF Slack. So if you're interested in joining the conversations, they're in the CNCF Slack, and there's a CNAB channel in there. There's also Notary channels in there, in Toto channel, Tough, and stuff like that. So you'll probably find them by searching most of them. Okay, so specifically, the next one is verify links from targets leases that we've talked as well. And then the final step for this is to actually perform the verification either in container or on the OS.
Yeah. Although I think that should just work. Should continue to work as long as we write everything in the same directory, then we should be okay.
Yeah. And I assume for container verification, I was initially copying files in a known directory. How is that done for OS? I don't recall.
OS
is it a temporary?
Same thing. We use the same temporary directory to yeah. I think we just verify everything in there too. I have to double check. Pretty sure that's what we do.
Yeah, and then pushing and pulling in total metadata as OCI artifacts. We've always discussed this as a next step.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
As a thing that hopefully doesn't break the spec, but
let me mark those things as optional. I'm gonna take out specific names. Okay. I just updated the PR with the optional stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, let me move them around too. They're not important right now.
And yeah, and then the final thing is I'm thinking about the way other projects are going to use Signy, and they're hopefully the goal is not to use it as an external CLI, but just the packages and imported and integrated in their own workflows, like Porter sign with, if you pass the flag, but also Porter push or publish, whatever the command is, but also sign.
Yeah.
So this is the same analogy with Notary, right? And I'm thinking about whether we should be able to configure most of the things like directories and environment variables, or just leave them as Signy and allowing the if there are two projects that use the same version of packages, they can reuse their trust directories, or just put everything in specific directories. So the main question is, do we want to configure, first of all, the config directory, the .signy directory? Do we want to configure the Signy root passphrase and targets passphrase and stuff like that? Or just leave them as Signy passphrase and specific to Signy, or not? I'm unclear about this, given that it's not necessarily a priority. But,
I don't think we have to solve this right now.
Before cutting 1.0, we should probably have a decision for it. I'm probably fine either way. I'm just asking if people have strong opinions about it.
That is something we should ask them too, right? As we ask them to test this and use this. Yeah. That's it from me. I have to run, unfortunately, in 2 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything else. So in the CNAB spec, there's only one more draft pull request that I was supposed to update based on Jacob's review this week, but I didn't have a chance to. But given that I have 30 minutes now, I will just do that now.
Sorry, one more thing is that we can catch up separately, but Monday, our expected presentation on Signy. At Notary V2. No time to talk about it right now, but we'll figure something out.
I think the biggest thing that we should cover is this particular PR and the last one in Signy, which are reusing targets and how we do key management, right?
Sounds good to me.
That was the biggest. That's the biggest difference from how Notary works regularly in Docker Content Trust.
Yeah.
So I think if we discuss that, then maybe a demo that covers both in toto. I think that would probably be the thing. I think that makes most sense. 10 minutes presentation, maybe something like that. Yeah,
that sounds good to me.
Okay, let's catch up in the CNAB channel.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I have to go, but appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day.
Bye.